Hello, and welcome to the Real San Diego podcast, where I interview inspiring and interesting people, dive into hot topics and communities around San Diego, and more. I'm your host, Summerfield, and this week I'm talking to Venus Molina, Chief of Staff for Council Member Jennifer Campbell. She will be filling us in on the short-term vacation rental laws that recently passed after many years of debate. If you are a homeowner with vacation rental homes in your neighborhood, an owner of a whole house short-term rental, or are thinking about buying an investment property for the purposes of renting it out short-term, then you'll really want to listen in on this. Hey, Venus, how are you today?
Hi, how are you?
Great. So thanks so much for joining me today. I've got us recording and streaming live on Facebook. So
fantastic.
So I just, this has been a topic of discussion that I've been, wanting to get clarity on for quite some time. And who better to let us know? And so before I get started, I just want to say, hey, everybody there on Facebook, this is Summerfield, and I'm here with Venus Molina. And she's going to talk to us more about the short-term vacation rentals new laws in San Diego. So Venus, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself to start with and how you came to be where you're at today in the position you're in?
Sure. So my name is Venus Molina, and I am the Chief of Staff for Councilmember Campbell in District 2. So actually, I went to school in all over District 2. So I started off at Cadman Elementary School and then Longfellow Elementary for a little bit. I went to PB Middle School and then Mission Bay High School, and I actually stayed local and went to USD for college. So I know District 2, although I don't live there, but I pretty much grew up there during my school years. I've been at City Hall since 2005. I did take a little break to go work for Family Foundation, but I've been there for quite some time. So I worked for District 4 for many of those years. And when Councilmember Campbell won her election, I was introduced to her, and it seemed like we had a lot of things in common. And I went for the Chief of Staff position. So here I am today, now 4 years later. Now I have to say District 2 is very different than District 4, very different. It's very demanding. I mean, District 4, there's so many different issues. But District 2 is definitely very high paced. And our office is one of the hardest working offices because there's so much to do in District 2.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you guys, so District 2, remind me, covers which beach areas and how
So it's all the beaches except La Jolla. So we have PB until December, and then PB will be in District 1. So we have PB, we have OB, we have Mission Beach, so the Mission Bay area, and Point Loma, Claremont, and a little bit of Linda Vista. So that's quite a bit of a district.
Huge area, and where the most action is actually, I would say, around the county, and especially most recently, specific to the vacation rentals. I'm assuming by the beach areas, the majority are. So awesome. Well, it's so nice to meet somebody that's grown up in the area, has a passion for servicing the area they grew up in, and stayed local, and now as Chief of Staff. That's Yeah. So let's see. And you kind of answered my question before, but from college on, have you always been public service? You're saying you're with the City Hall, is that correct?
Well, I'm a little older, but I've been at the city since 2005. But I worked in nonprofits for a while. Actually, I did a lot of work in nonprofits, campaigns, but I did a little bit of corporate. But I think I think you have to be a extra crazy junkie to work in government. It takes a special kind of crazy to work in public service. So
yes, I can only imagine. I do some volunteering on a very small level for the community, just here in Ocean Beach, and I completely can see your point. And I want to walk a day in your guys' shoes.
Yeah.
So So the new rules have been passed by
Yeah.
all the governing parties. And what does that mean for short-term rentals in San Diego?
So, well, I mean, I think it's been so many years in the making, right? And so we took this on. This is one of the council members' top priorities when we came together. And for a while, she also, I mean, she had heard so many bad things about it. She also was under the impression that, you know, these things should just go away, right? Maybe we should just completely get rid of them. And I said, well, let's look into that, because I have a feeling we can't really do that. So in our first kind of weeks in office, we started meeting with folks, including city attorney's office, just different folks. We realized we have over 16,000 short-term vacation rentals here, and trying to ban them would definitely not, it would not be a good thing.
Right.
I can't even imagine the kind of lawsuits that we would get into, just trying to stop 16,000 folks from operating. And so therefore we realized, you know, we were actually in the backseat on this one. There was another council member that was leading this effort. And I don't know if you recall, but the previous council had actually passed an ordinance, and it was a little weighted on one side over the other. And so the platforms came at them very hard with threats of a referendum, you know, taking this to the state for a vote. And if they took it to a vote, they would definitely probably win, and we would be very lopsided when it came to the industry, and to, you know, what we really wanted. So the city council rescinded the ordinance, and said, okay, we will take this off. And so there's a 1-year cooling period. That's when we came in. So for 1 year, we kind of had to, we couldn't really pass another ordinance or bring on another ordinance. And whatever ordinance came to council couldn't be it could not emulate what had already passed. It had to be a little bit different. So we couldn't really just redo, right? So it had to be different, obviously. And so we were on the backseat of this because we were the newbies, and there was another veteran council member at the time that was taking the lead. So I think we had 2 meetings with stakeholders at that point, that first year in 2019. This was new to me because short-term rentals that were not a thing in District 4. We didn't really care. You know, we didn't really have them. So it wasn't a thing for us. And so I completely immersed myself in this, but we were, you know, like I said, we were in the backseat. And then things changed, and that council member changed their mind. And so obviously we're not going to lead this effort anymore, because now they were opposing short-term vacation rentals. So then we, being the representative from the beach community, we were kind of stuck with having to work on this alone. And so we took it on as a new office and met with, I can't tell you how many people, because it's such a big issue. And I realized people are passionate on both sides. People hate them. People love them. People use them. We use them. I know my family uses them. But I also understand community folks that have these loud parties. So, I mean, it was just, and then you have the hotel industry, you have the unions, it's just, everybody is involved in this. And so we had to meet with everyone to really try to find a compromise on this. And I don't know if I answered your question, Cece, or did I just kind of go away?
No, that's great. I think it's a great history lesson for all of us. And I do vaguely recall when it was first put out there, and there was a lot of turmoil over it. I don't recall who the council person is. I hate to say that, but anyways, point being,
it doesn't matter.
It didn't go anywhere, and it kind of just, you know, fell flat, and then was initiated by council member Campbell. Excuse me. Yeah. So you said that the 15,000 vacation rentals total in District 2. Is that correct?
No,
or
it's citywide. Citywide.
citywide, excuse me, citywide. How many of those are actually like whole house rentals? I know there's a difference between whole house rental
So
and
yeah.
share.
So based on, because they're not really they weren't regulated. So we don't have actual numbers yet, right? So we're using numbers based on just I think we're using the auditor's numbers.
Okay.
So based on the numbers and the numbers that I used for our staff report, it's about 16,000. It's probably more. So it's about 16,000 overall, and 80% of that was whole home rentals.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
That's a lot.
Mhm.
So that gets me into approximately how many will there be after this law goes into effect as far as whole house rental goes?
So with the compromise, and this is why it was such a great compromise, we were able to bring things down to 1% of the whole of all housing stock. So all housing stock throughout San Diego, according to Sandag, housing data is 540,000 plus plus plus. So 1% of that is 5,400. So it's the lottery allows 5,400 licenses for home rentals, and that's outside of Mission Beach. Mission Beach has its own has its own numbers, right? Because they're at 30% of their
whole house
their
numbers.
cap, right? 30% of their cap versus the 1% citywide.
Okay, and so that brings up another question for me with Mission Beach, in respect to Mission Beach. Mission Beach is part of the 92109 zip code. Where are the boundaries for what's considered Mission Beach? Because that heads into PB2.
Right. So I actually presented a map, and I used the Mission Beach, the planning area. So we use the map that they have for their planning area.
Good to know. I'll have to post that later. We don't have
that. So and it's in my backup. So if you go to my staff report, like initially, the map of Mission Beach is included there, so you can see what the boundaries are like.
Perfect. We'll check that out.
Yeah.
That direction. How does the lottery system work? I know everybody's curious about this, and I've heard different things, and I've looked at news articles, but I want to get it straight from you.
Of course. So we have our PANDA, which is our performance and analytics department. So they will be conducting it. And so it's a random, but it's also it's stratified. So it's a stratified lottery, but still random. And by stratified, and this is actually a great idea. So for example, we all of us know that the majority of the licenses or the operators right now are within the coastal area, right? We're not going to get a lot of them in District 5 up north or District 6. A lot of them are going to be Districts 1, 2, and 3. So the way the stratified lottery works is that it will prioritize based on the pool. So knowing that we're going to get a huge pool of applicants, right, that are predominantly in maybe the coastal areas, right? So what it'll do is it will prioritize based, but it'll be based on the areas that are coming in, so that we don't get 80% of them in District 5 or in District 6, right? So we don't run that risk. And the other reason why, the stratified lottery is so important, because Coastal Commission is really big on, so it's not just us, but then we also have to abide by a Coastal Commission and the Coastal Act. So they are on us about ensuring that we provide affordable accommodations in the coastal area. So if we start removing those, then we start getting into trouble, right? So we wanted to make sure that we keep a very, it's a way to kind of ensure that the applicants that come in and the areas that come in will be kind of prioritized in that sense. Makes sense. The lottery is going to be, and the other thing I do want to mention is the council was very specific in giving direction to prioritize good actors, so good operators. So there's people that have been operating for years that have been doing a great job, and then you have folks that are bad apples, right? So
Sure, of course.
they wanted to make sure that we found a way to prioritize. And so we created a weight system, a point system to prioritize those folks that, are good actors, that don't have the criminal record or code compliance issues.
Right.
So we want to prioritize those people that have been doing a good job.
That makes total sense. I guess to follow that question up, I'm going to ask this. I mean, we can talk about how to enter the lottery. I'm sure there's a link somewhere. We can get into that. But my biggest question on the lottery system is, if you are chosen as one of the people that can operate as a short-term vacation rental, is there a term limit, or is it just a forever thing?
2 years. Nope.
Okay.
2 years. 2 years. And if you screw up, you run the risk of having your license revoked.
Yeah.
And then you have to wait in line.
Right. Wait back in line. And then follow-up questions of that would be like, if you decide to sell your property during your term, does it automatically cut off the term, or do you
Yep, it cuts it off. So the license is with the individual, not the property, because that's, so we wanted to make sure that you at CC, you're responsible. So you are CC, the human, the person that's getting the license. So the license is with you and this property. If you move, then that's a different property, right? If you sell, then that's no. And it's non-transferable. So.
Yeah. And asking so many questions around this, but what if somebody has 2 properties that they're doing vacation rental at, like 2 houses, say, that they're using vacation rental? Are you going to consider both of those in the lottery, or is only one of the properties considered?
So no, you can only do one. So in a whole home rental, so it's whole home rental, you can rent your home or your vacation home, right? So I have a home or my vacation home, right? I wish I had a beach house, but it was like, so it's my home or my beach house, right? So it's one or the other. But it's not both. And then I can't have a license. For example, I can't have a license to be whole home rental and then rent this house as a home sharing. So it's one license per person, right? So a lot of folks, if they don't make it into the lottery for whole home rental, they can choose to do whole home. I mean, to do shared housing, right? Because that's unlimited. So tier 1s and tier 2 are shared housing, and you could and that's unlimited. So there's no cap on that.
Got it. Well, that would answer my next question. And entering the lottery, like, is that already open to enter, or is that something that's coming?
So one of the things that's going to happen, so this whole thing is a process. So we went to Coastal Commission. Coastal Commission approved unanimously. They just had some minor edits. And I think one of the things that they added is a sunset clause, just for 2030, just to kind of do a review, to check in, to see, hey, is this working? Is this not working? How is it affecting the coastal communities? So they added that sunset clause just as a check-in. But overall, they didn't really change anything major. And so they passed unanimously. Then what happens is it comes back to council. Council certifies what the Coastal Commission said. Yes, woohoo, we did it. So it passed through council. And then what'll happen is in August, it'll go to, this is so funny, it's just so bureaucratic, but then it'll go to Coastal Commission on their consent calendar to say, yes, the council agreed with everything that you said, it's on consent, and then it's done, right? So that'll happen in August. No big thing, it'll just be on the consent calendar. So what we're hoping to do is to get this going, to get this up and running by the fall, late fall. So it'll be like October, November, because we want to make sure we get it done this year. And this is to help the operators unwind, because we don't want to do it at the beginning of the year where people are booking their spring break vacations, and then they'll have to cancel, and the folks are, well, do I have a license? Do I not? So that's why I want to make sure we do it at the end of the year, so that they know, right? And they can plan for next year. Right, exactly. Make a plan accordingly. Makes a lot of sense, and I think that's a good idea for sure. We try to have common sense when we do things. I do sometimes. I goofed. I have to tell you, I did goof. I did goof on something, because you're not thinking straight out, and I'll be honest on where I completely goofed. So when I was, when I had the effective date, when I first was working on this, I had an effective date and I was like, well, do I do a year? Do I do 18 months? Like, how much time do I give us to work on this? So when I was working on it from my staff report, I said, I'm going to do 18 months to give the city and the operators time to unwind. So I'm going to do the middle of the year. So I picked July 1st, I think of 2022 to start. I think it was going to be July 1st of 2022 and to start, or 2021, one of those years. I think it was 2022. And then, and because it worked. I was like, oh, this is the middle of the year.
Yeah.
It's perfect time. It's right at the center. July 1st, we can start. And then, of course, I get the calls. Well, you're in the middle of summer. It's the middle of 4th of July weekend.
Right.
Did you realize? I mean, how the hell is that going to work? And I'm just like, but I wasn't, of course, I wasn't thinking that. And that's why it's so important when you talk to people, because they're just like, what the hell were you thinking? I'm like, well, I wasn't thinking of that. So then we moved. We obviously moved
calendar and going, okay, this is the time we need, and this will start right here. Yeah.
So that was my goof. That was my goof, but we fixed it.
Yeah, for sure. So has there been a new department established to oversee the enforcement of the rules, or how's that working out?
So, no, not a new department. So the enforcement is under DSD, so Development Services, and it's code enforcement. So that's code enforcement. We have a staff that's assigned to short-term vacation rentals, and that's the person that pretty much manages all of that. And then City Treasurer's Office will be the ones to take on the permits, the licenses. So they will be the ones to help with that. And there's actually a splash page at the city with all of the information on short-term vacation rentals.
I'll be sure to pick up those links from you after the fact. You can just send me an email and I'll post along with this video once it gets posted. So let's see, is there going to be fines for disobeying the rules, or are you just going to get your license yanked completely?
There's fines. There's also there's fines, obviously, if because, and there's warnings, there's fines, because, sometimes the operators might not know, they might not know, but obviously for something just horrible, then yes. And actually in the staff report and the ordinance, we kind of give the step-by-step process of how you can lose your license, and then obviously the fines.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. And I think we talked a little bit about the renting a space in your house. That's still going to be legal to no limit. Whatever you want to do in your own house, fine with as long as you're living there and not renting the whole house out. I just want to make sure I understand that correctly. When you say shared house space, if you had an ADU, say in your backyard, and you wanted to rent that out, short-term rental, is that still considered your space and you're good to go? Or is that
so all the houses, I believe it's everything before, and oh my God, is it 2013? So there's a year, was it 2017? Oh my God, I'm rusty on my dates, but I believe it's 2017. So all of the ADUs built before 2017, which was before the ADU law came out, where they were giving some bonuses and some waivers to build ADUs. So, and I think it's only 100 of them. So all of those are available for short-term vacation rentals. So if you have your ADU, the new ones, obviously I think it was the council president at the time that said they did not want any ADUs to be used for short-term vacation rentals. Reason being that if we're subsidizing,
point is to have extra space to rent to somebody full time.
Exactly. So that was the whole point, during this whole housing crisis. So the ones before, I believe it's September 2017, but I'll confirm that, are eligible. After that, no. But if you have a duplex, you could, that's home sharing. We've gotten into situations where people have a triplex, or you have 4. So those get really creative. And that's why I have Matt there, who's our TBR person. And I'm like, call him, because people have very specific questions and everything is different, right? And so we're learning as we go on some of these things, because I have people that have one parcel number with 4 units,
Yeah.
something. So it's on a case by case basis on situations like that we can
Okay.
definitely help with.
That's definitely good to know, because I mean, 1 to 4 units in my world of real estate is considered like still residential. So you could be living in a unit, renting out the other 3.
Yeah.
And who's to say, maybe I want to rent out one of them as a Airbnb and one of them as a full-time rental. And so, yeah, I was kind of curious on that too, what the difference is on that, or if it's treated differently. Okay, so we also kind of covered where we can find some detailed, reliable information, but is there a specific web address that you can mention now where you could find all the information about short-term rental?
I believe it's www.sandiego.gov/sidewalk STVRs, but I'll send that over to you. Let me just confirm that. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I guess finally, is there anything else you'd like to mention in regards to this that I didn't cover with you? I don't have any questions from my audience, so obviously everybody's out there enjoying the sunshine, I guess.
It is. They are. It's like 78 degrees.
I know. It's really warm here.
Yeah. So it was exactly what I gave you. So it's sandiego.gov/STVRs. And then it'll send you to the page. So no, I think one thing that is really important is that any of these ordinances that we pass, including especially this one, it's going to have an annual review. And there's one thing that I can assure you of, is that I probably did not get this perfect. This is not perfect. It's probably something that I'm missing. There's probably something that needs to be changed. That I know 100%, but we don't know what it is yet.
We have to start somewhere.
Huh?
We have to start somewhere.
We have to. So after a year, once it's implemented, we'll know what the tweaks are, right? And then we can go from there.
Yeah. So on that, with the tweaks and stuff, is that going to take a whole process back through every process?
No, it'll be something that we can fix.
Internally?
Yeah. Or whatever feedback. So yeah,
you're getting, and then review it and decide what's going
to that annual. So when we have the annual review, we can come back and say, here's some of the questions, and then we can do it then, versus having it every year. I mean, throughout the year.
Right, throughout the year, exactly. One annual review. And I guess on that note too, on an annual review, is there going to be some ability for public comment at that point?
Of course, of course, yeah. We'll probably bring the annual review to a committee or to council. So it's definitely public, because one thing would be what I know or what staff knows, but the public's going to know, right? That's where we get a lot of our information.
Of course. And that's who you're servicing, is the community.
So exactly.
That totally makes sense. And, I, like you, frequent a lot of Airbnbs and short-term rentals when I'm traveling around, because sometimes it's fun to see the place you're visiting from a different perspective than a hotel. I don't always do it. I sometimes do hotels, I do both, but I completely understand both sides of how people feel about it. There is a shortage of rentals, like long-term rentals here at the beach. I live in Ocean Beach, and I've seen how it's affected people over the years, especially in the last probably 5 or so years. It's taken a toll on the local school as far as the enrollment there, because people can't afford to rent here.
Exactly.
There's not enough there's too much high house demand as far as for rentals goes. And part of that problem is because of all the short-term rentals. So I definitely see a need for some kind of limitation to it, and some rules to be set so that we can all kind of get along.
Yes.
Another way to say it.
Yeah. And I think this is great, because what'll happen is that the other folks that didn't get the license, they're going to have to rent. They're going to have to rent full time or sell, right? So they're going to want to unload, because for 2 years, they're not going to be able to rent them as a short-term vacation rental.
And you having grown up in District 2, I mean, here at the beach, my kids went to OB Elementary and stuff, and we had, when they were younger, we had such a feeling of community, and the school was well populated with all different, the diversity of culture and people that were there. And so it was really a phenomenal thing for my kids to experience that. Yeah. And I'm sad to see that the neighborhood's going to kind of been, separated a bit, shifted into more of like the I hate to call it Mission Beach, but like, because Mission Beach has always been kind of the
Different.
vacation spot,
Yeah.
So I think that balance is important, and I think this has been a really good step forward to find
Yeah.
balance.
And we have to start somewhere. And I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest takeaway for folks, is that we have to start somewhere, and people have been working on this for years. So,
Yeah.
give this a chance. Let's see what happens.
Yep.
And we'll fix it,
And nothing's set in stone. We can always fix it, right? So
absolutely.
it's a good start, and we'll see where
Mm-hmm.
we're at in the year, and get a review and figure out, what needs to be changed.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Cece. I appreciate this. The other thing you should know is today is the first day for the sidewalk vending ordinance too. So.
Oh, really? We're getting that together. Okay. All right, on. Well, that's a whole other topic.
That's a whole other topic. So we'll talk about that later.
Thanks for giving me the heads up on that. I'm glad to know that.
Of course. Yep. Awesome.
All right. Well,
thank you, Cece. It's a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.